Hey everyone, this is Tom Bucks, and today I got a deck list for you guys. It's gonna be the fishy version of Sprite's Gishki Sprights. Whether you want to find a new way to play Sprites, or you want something to pivot around just in case a balance hits a couple of cards that you want to play, this could be a really good fallback deck, a really good candidate, and it's doing fairly well in OCG. Perhaps it's the preferred way of playing in OCG for Sprites right now. So I'm going to give you guys a quick deck list, but more importantly, we're going to test some combos. And yes, I got most of these cards from the box I opened, and a little bit of camera magic. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding notification bell, and let's go. So let's start off with the monsters. We have Gishki Grimness. This is the new card from Photon Hypernova. This is the new Diva card. It does special summon a card out of the deck, and you're likely going to summon Abyss 90% of the time. But one thing that people don't mention about this card is the limitation that it does put you under. You can only attack with ritual monsters, which makes it a little bit harder to go into Zeus, makes it harder to OTK, or almost impossible to OTK with number 2, the Mosquito Ninja. You can still play those, but you're gonna have to play around it perhaps turn 2, turn 3. You just have to adjust, because this is a hard commitment. Once you play into this, you can't OTK your opponent, so you're going to try to spit out as many rituals as possible if you're aiming to do damage. But aside from that, you're summoning out Gishki Abyss. And speaking of Gishki Abyss, that's going to be the next card, Gishki Abyss. So 2 Gishki Abyss. I don't think you need a third one, because opening in your hand doesn't really do you any favors aside from acting as a water name. So this is a non-once per turn Stratos, in case you were wondering what it does. Next we have Gishki Vision. I play a pair of Vision, and I play a pair of Shadow. These are non-once per turn searchers. You can use these cards to search out your ritual spells and your ritual monsters. That's essentially it. So your Aqua Mirror or your Photo Mirror. And as for the ritual, so 2 copies of Gishki Nerimanes. This is the new ritual monster. It acts as a monster effect negator and shuffles it back into the deck. That part's really good. But if you do summon out this card, it kind of pays it forward, extends your combo, summons out another water monster out of your graveyard. That part's also not once per turn. So if you're able to spit out multiple copies of this card, I'd say why not go for it. It's really, really good anyways. It's a monster effect negator, and typically you can try to get 2 negates out of it. So yeah, this one's really good. Now for Sprite cards, we play 2 copies of Sprite Blue, and I also play 2 copies of Sprite Jet. I don't need to max out the names, but having Blue is probably better than Jet, because Blue leads to Jet and just giving me more bodies to play with. But you don't have a large Sprite package anymore. And speaking of the last 2 cards of Sprite names, we have 1 carrot and 1 red. So I like to start with the red because it just gives me better, hand trap coverage. But then this is kind of getting replaced by Nerimanes, so I prefer to end on the carrot so I get more coverage when I end the board in case I can't go into an Omni Negate. And speaking of the Omni Negate, I played 3 copies of Swap Frog. I don't know why people would try to cut this, but I guess it's not really as consistent, especially now that we don't have 1 card Ronin Totem, make the totally awesome. But you do add a lot of water into the deck with this version, so if you go into like Gishki Abyss, you're adding a water anyway, so you get a free special summon. And in case you do get hit by hand traps that stop you from playing like Imperms or stuff along those lines, you're still getting a level 2 body on board. And then you can just play regular Sprites if you do get hit by a couple of hand traps. And regular Sprites, after getting hit by a couple of hand traps, is good enough to take the game. So that being said, there's also more stuff you can do with frogs. There's ways to revive it, like Nerimanes. If you start with Nerimanes, you can basically just get the Swap Frog dump, and then you just get your play in, and you get to summon out Nerimanes and Totally Awesome at the same time, because you get to revive the other Swap Frog that you just dumped. So that's one of the options. There are other ways too, like Herald of Pure Light. Pure Light can add back the Swap Frog, and with all the water, you can just make another Totally Awesome. There's just so many ways you can do it, and if you're really that greedy, you want the Totally Awesome, then you can also play Salvage. And Salvage isn't that bad either, considering you can also make another Nerimanes copy thanks to just activating 1 copy of that. So you can consider that if you need to. As for the rest of the package here, we have the Nimble package, 2 Anglers. Alright, still part of this. We're still playing Sprint. And we have 3 Beavers. Yeah, that part never changed. No Sunfish for me because, again, it's hard for me. If I'm relying on using the Grimness, I can't attack with it. So yeah, that's going to be a limitation. So yeah, that's the monsters. As for the spell cards, Triples Prosperity. 1 Call by the Grave and 2 Triple Tack. Triple Tack is just kind of standard because there's just so many monster effect anyways activating all the time, so this will help you get a peek, draw an extra card or 2. Typically I'm using this for peeking more than anything, or mainly stealing monsters in case I have to go second. We have 2 starters and a smasher. You don't need to max out on starters. If you do open with a starter, that's cool. Try to save it until you drop the Nary Manus before you play starter. Otherwise, you're kind of playing into a dead end. You know, there's a lot of different ways you can trip over your own cards in this deck, but the combo lines are just way better in my opinion because it's just way more diverse. The ceiling is much higher, and smashers is your preferred search, I would say, because it gives you a spell trap based removal, so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Okay, now for the actual stuff here. So we have aqua mirrors. We start off with the focus aqua mirror. Konami gave this to us in common, which is great. Also, shoutouts to Andrew for supplying me with some aqua mirrors and the Gishki Abyss. Without you, I can't actually do this profile. So these Gishki Abyss, you know, gotta shoutouts where shoutouts are due. Yo, this one here, this one is from you, Andrew. All right, thank you so much. And there's also other stuff as well. For the aqua mirrors, we have Gishki aqua mirror, we have 1 photo mirror, and we have aqua mirror illusion. So this essentially turns your negates into 2 negates for your Nary Manus, because you can just summon out a ritual monster straight from your hand, but it does go back to your hand during the end phase, which is fine. It's fine. It's just really nice to have a free ritual monster. And this card gets set by focus aqua mirror. All right, so yeah, if during the end phase, if you control a ritual, you can set this all straight out to the field. And Nary Manus puts himself back in the hand, so that's great too. Here's the thing about the aqua mirror, Gishki aqua mirror. If you guys have played Gishkis before, you prefer to actually ditch a ritual monster so that you can put the aqua mirror back in, so that you can go back into another ritual summon. So I played a version without the photo mirror, and that was fine too. It didn't really come up as much, although probably in more competitive play, this card does come with a lot of risk, and I usually try to avoid using the photo mirror because it does put me down to about 3,000 life points, and that's a very, very easy kill. All right, but you do save up on 1 card or 2 cards worth of resources, so it's give or take. Okay, so for the extra deck, starting off with triple elf. Let me explain this. So starting elf, sometimes you do your combo with Grimness. You start with the elf to revive the abyss. So yeah, you start with the elf, but you still want to end on an elf, so that's why there's a second elf. That makes sense. But on the other hand, you want to follow up elf on the turn after, and that's why there's a third one. Came up 50% of the time, and that's enough to warrant me to play a third copy. And sometimes it also makes it easier for me to use prosperity and ditch out one of the elves anyway, because I can still choose to play a bit more conservative. Then there is the Sprite Sprint. I do end on sprint in the extra monster zone from time to time with an Exceeds monster, so I do have that bounce effect where my opponent does not expect it. They go special summon, I'm like, okay, well, sprint bounce your card. Yeah, it's pretty good, but of course we're still playing the nimble package, so that's for dumping that. Or you can dump frogs into the graveyard so that you can revive with Nary Manus, which eventually leads to the totally awesome, which is what it really is. Then there is the IP Masquerena. Of course, we have the Marine Cess Coral Anemone with the Nimble Beavers, and everything being water is really easy. And this is another way to revive your Totally Awesome, or get Totally Awesome on board with Revival of these Swap Frog. But this card is actually pretty hard to use. If you're not managing your zones right, you're going to lock out the zone that you want to summon out with Coral Anemone. Which means a lot of your combos, if you're doing turn 1, these extra monster zone placement does matter because Coral Anemone points this way, and therefore these 2 spots are the preferred 2 zones. Like, this is the extra monster zone, you want to go onto the right extra monster zone. As for the remaining monster IP, we have Unicorn and we have Crusadia Avermax because it's really good. As for the Xyz monster, well, let's go into some of the obvious stuff. Downerd and Zeus. Zeus is a lot harder to get into with this deck, especially if you have to use Grimness, because if Grimness is there, this is not an option. 1 Jin Buster, Herald of Pure Light, another way to add back. Well, for me, you can of course add back the Gishki Shadow, the Gishki Vision. Those will turn into something else. But remember, you have to put a card back into the deck. So typically, you can probably put back your extra Nimble cards. But you can also use this to add Swamp Frog to your hand. If you're holding other water monsters, that means you can just summon out the water anyway and just basically do a bypass. Get into a Jin Buster, plus Swap, plus everything. Yeah, make an unbreakable board. Same deal. And 2 Gigantic Sprite and a Totally Awesome. So there are certain builds that don't play Totally Awesome. I get it. You don't really need it. I mean, you have a lot of coverage anyway, and you can opt for more consistency. In fact, there is a point where I think you can just play Gishki Frogs as a deck without the Sprite cards. Of course, the extra deck more or less looks the same because you're just using level 2s, but that is an option I might explore in the future, just in case, you know, the Sprites do get killed. For the combo segment, I'm just going to showcase a test hand with the Focus Aqua Mirror. There's a lot of different lines. Hopefully I can kind of cover how to read the hand instead of just playing out many different hands. But I think if you want to test hand this, that could be a dedicated video on its own. And so the other part is, oh, don't forget to check out MST.TV. These are the Ulti Instinct sleeves. They are some of the best ones that you guys love so much. And thank you guys for the support. And check it out at MST.TV. You can even get the over sleeves to kind of protect them as well. They work for Yu-Gi-Oh size sleeves. Anyways, let's get to this. So what do we got? Okay, I don't really need this. Okay, that's kind of the same card. Actually, I kind of want to talk about this. If you have Aqua Mirror plus Grimness, just get another Gishki Searcher. That's actually probably the best way to play this because you can minimize the resources you need and save a bunch of life points. And okay, that's still the same card. Okay, we got blue. So to explain the Gishki, like Aqua Mirror, or rather Grimness automatically gives you a gigantic sprite. So you're automatically going to be able to play with the sprite line or the toad line depending on what line that you want to play. But if you open with a swap frog or blue or starter or whatever, that means you already have every single line, and hopefully I can kind of demonstrate this. So let's start off this play with the Gishki Aqua Mirror. Since we have Grimness, we have Vision, let's grab ourselves the Shadow. So we'll grab ourselves a Gishki Shadow. We're going to activate the Shadow right away just so that we can get ourselves, in this case, we already have Vision, so we're just going to grab the Aqua Mirror and we're going to ditch the other Vision, and we're just going to grab the Nerimanes. And then, okay, so this card's kind of stuck in my hand. We're going to normal summon out the Grimness effect. We're going to summon out our Shark Face, Abyss. This is why everyone's hunting for this card. Gishki Abyss effect on summon. I'm just going to grab another copy of Nerimanes. So our Aqua Mirror can immediately go off, but I want to maximize the resources that I can get. So I'm going to start off by linking these into a Sprite Elf. We're not going to use the effect of Elf just yet. We're going to hold off on it, but we're going to use this to generate bodies with the Aqua Mirror. So we're going to activate the Aqua Mirror, and that's going to allow us to tribute one of the Nerimanes to summon the other. Summon it to a far zone here. It's probably the best bet without clogging yourself, because it's very easy to clog where your arrows do matter this time. So summon Nerimanes over here. Aqua Mirror goes to the graveyard. That's going to activate this Nerimanes. We're going to target the Abyss because this is not once per turn. We're going to special summon it onto the field, onto the arrow, so it's protected. We're going to activate the Abyss, and we're going to search for a Shadow. We're going to be able to re-add the same Aqua Mirror, or you can add the other Aqua Mirror, or the Photo Mirror, and that's also okay as well. But instead, yeah, I'm just going to ditch this and grab the Photo Mirror. And just to make sure that we still have Aqua Mirrors left, we're going to activate this Gishki Aqua Mirror, put it back into the deck, and add the Nerimanes into our hand. So that's how you can like double summon on the Nerimanes, but I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket just yet. So next here, we haven't used the Elf yet, which is also pretty cool, but because of the blue, we can special summon out blue right now. Blue effect. We're going to add Jet because we already have the monster protection. Here we can immediately just take these two, link them off, and go into a Sprint. Sprint effect, we're going to ditch the Angler. Angler effect, summon out our double Beavers. Alright, this part's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to take the two Beavers, and we're going to go into our Gigantic Sprite. Gigantic Sprite effect. We're going to summon out our Swap Frog. Swap Frog effect. Ditch Swap Frog. Swap the Sprite Elf effect. Summon out Swap Frog. And then we can just immediately just overlay these two. Now leave the zone open because I still want to make another monster. Make it totally awesome right here. And we still have our Jet. So we're going to special summon out our Jet. Jet effect. Grab a starter. Or actually, no. Let's get Smashers. Get the Smashers. And take these two. You can actually leave this out if you want to. But I'm just going to go into an IP Masquerena because I'm very, very greedy. I want to leave as many materials here as available as possible. And I'm going to set my Smashers. And then during the end phase, I'm going to banish the Aqua Mirror to set the Trap Aqua Mirror Illusion. And that's more or less my end board here. So in terms of disruption count, it's pretty easy to look at this. So one Monster Negate, one Omni Negate, one Bounce on a special summon, 1 Omni Banish, 1 additional negate for Nary Manas. In case they already Dark Ruler me, I can still summon the one in my hand I added back. There's also Elf on redoing the totally awesome, and there's IP Masquerena just kind of make more problems for my opponent. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 disruptions. So that was one of many different combos this deck has to offer. But if you guys want to see a more dedicated video towards comboing, you guys hit that subscribe button and let me know down in the comment section. And one thing before I kind of close out, one card I really want to talk about in terms of sideboard, because I have been playing this with the sideboard, and to guarantee like an easy win, especially when you go first, you can side in this card. This is Spiritual Water Art Owie. You get to look at your opponent's hand and rip a card out by tributing a water monster you control. You have a ton of water options. This is like really, really easy. And I even paired it with Trap Trick and Mind Crush. And this is going back to the Frognark days where you get to look at your opponent's hand, rip multiple cards out, and they can't do anything. I've got hit by a D-Shifter, summon up Grimness, set this card and the other one, and then they lost. Yeah, that was funny because I hit them with a triple attack, ripped 1 card out, and then I owied them for a 2nd card, and then I mind crushed them for a 3rd card. They had nothing left to play. I have a full combo ready to go with Sprite Blue in my hand, so yeah, go figure. So anyways, that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, maybe we'll finally get a ban list change. Hit the subscribe button and ding that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one.